Welcome to the Censinet Champion webinar series. I'm Ed Gaudet, the CEO and founder of Censinet. And today I am pleased to host Dayton Children's. And we're going to explore their journey with Censinet, how they got started, and some of the exciting benefits that they receive from working with Censinet. I'm pleased to have on with me today JD Whitlock, the Chief Information Officer from Dayton's, and Kirsten Brill, the cybersecurity analyst. Welcome to the webinar. How are you folks today?
Great, thanks, Ed.
Good,
Great, thank
good,
you.
excellent. All right, so and I think before we got started today, JD, you reminded me of our anniversary. How long have we been working together?
It's been 5 years.
5 years. That's incredible. Well, you certainly were one of the first customers that we worked with. I know you've seen a lot over the last 5 years, and we can explore that as well. And we'd love to, and our listeners would love to understand your journey. The good, the bad, the ugly. Let's be transparent. Let's talk about all of it today, and let's start off with, what did the world look like before Censinet?
Well, it's difficult to remember that far back. No, to be perfectly honest, I actually don't remember what we were doing before Censinet, but clearly not as mature as what we have the process going in Censinet. And so, you and I were introduced from a mutual colleague that is just into a lot of innovative healthcare IT. When I heard about it and heard about your what exactly did you call your early adopter program? Whatever you call it, we signed up.
No, I just think it was like the sense of design. Yeah, our design program.
Collaboration, yeah.
Yeah.
So, of course you have to have, you should have some third-party risk management program, right? And the bottom line is that that Censinet is the, only one that does that, that's exclusively healthcare focused. And so therefore you have been, for the last 5 years, been steadily adding features that focus deeply on healthcare, and going really well beyond TPRM functionality, right? There's some of the great benchmarking for hiccup and CPGs. And so it's a really nice platform. There's benefits from the network effects, right? Since 5 years ago. How many vendors are you up to now on the platform?
Yeah, so the digital catalog has more than 44,000 vendors and products today in it. Yeah, and I think when we started, we probably had 5 or something.
So obviously it's in everybody's interest to make this essential TPRM process run as smoothly as possible. It's in our interest so we can, quickly do assessments and quickly find out if this is a vendor we want to move forward with or not. It's obviously in the vendor's interest to answer the questions in a standardized format instead of slightly differently for every potential customer they have. So I am not into the day-to-day of that. That's why we have Kirsten here. Kirsten runs TPRM for us. And I don't know, Kirsten, you want to say a few words about, how things are going with the TPRM process, maybe some of the new features either that we've had recently, or I think you've had some discussions about some new features to come that are going to make it even better.
Yeah, of course. So when I came to Dayton Children's, I actually didn't have any IT cyber background. So using this product has been great because it's just very user-friendly and just very easy to understand. And they're very helpful in general, like Censinet in general. It's just been very helpful. One of the really nice features that we have is for the corrective action plan.
No, yeah, that's right. Yeah, and you've been really helpful in helping us really understand how to make it more flexible and work in your environment and accelerate the time between working directly with the vendor to complete those corrective action plans. So
yeah, that's been something that's been very helpful because I do remember when I first started, the way I was taught to do this was originally to go through like the high risk questions, and we would actually make a Word doc and send that Word doc to the vendors, have them fill it out. And then it's just a long process. So having that corrective action plan has been great and cut time right down the middle. So,
Yeah, and having it consolidated in one area has been helpful as well to
oh,
keep the
yes.
record
Speeding
all
things up.
together. Mm.
Yes.
Excellent, excellent. And so, how long have you been doing the analyst role, Kirsten?
3 years. I
Three.
started in 2021, October 2021.
Wow. Okay. Okay. And
Mhm.
again, you came in with no experience in the role.
No IT experience, no.
And that's incredible. And
Yeah, it's been
it's,
amazing.
I can tell the story of how that went, by the way. We were looking
yeah.
for a junior analyst, and for now, this is not the only thing that Kirsten does. She also does some of our Nessus vulnerability scanning and a few other things. But this was an important component of it. We wanted to make sure that we were going to hire somebody that would actually embrace this side of things because, you know, certain people, they go and they get a cybersecurity certificate or something, and they think they're gonna, you know, suddenly become you know, the red team or whatever. And some of this work is let's face it, it's administrative work, and it's a very important work. Risk management generally for the enterprise, of course, ultimately is what we're doing here, right? Our risk management. We wanted someone that actually really embraced this role, and in the interview process, Kirsten really embraced this role and sounded actually excited about the risk management piece of this. So that's a part of the reason why Kirsten.
Yeah,
Uh,
and I'm happy to be here. It's been
Yeah.
great. It has been really.
Yeah, if I could probe on that a little bit, because I always find that interesting when I hear that from customers where, um, someone started off maybe for the first time in this role, and based on the tool and based on the process and other things, right? It's always a combination of people, process, technology, right? It's never just one thing. But the tool also helped facilitate a quick ramp of knowledge in the area of risk management and visibility into how the organization managed the process of purchasing and onboarding of vendors and bringing, and managing vendors longer term. Is that accurate? Did that help accelerate your understanding of that process overall?
I mean, overall, I would say yes. Because again, I really didn't have honestly any understanding coming into it, but it was
Hmm.
just with the people that I was working with, especially, they were just very helpful and understanding with the product itself. So
Hmm. Yeah. And have you done any extra courses or anything in the area of risk management or cybersecurity or since
I
you
I did an IT risk fundamentals.
Hmm, good.
Um, that was probably about 2 years back
Yeah.
now. Just a
And
couple things
and
sprinkled
and
throughout.
what do you like most about the role? Like obviously you're doing it, you've been doing it for a while.
Mhm.
But what is it that you like most about your
My
overall role?
cyber role in general. Well, Dayton Children's especially has just been great to work at, and my supervisors and just my coworkers have been very
Hmm.
helpful. I'm able to get into systems that I knew nothing about, had never even heard of before, and they're just showing me all these new things, and it's just been amazing to actually get in there because I know that a lot of other companies would not let someone like me do that, especially. So it's just been great seeing all this information.
Yeah, you get that broad view of the types of applications that are used. You get that
Mhm.
connection to the business probably that you wouldn't be able to get if you were sort of in another role, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Excellent. Excellent. So, if we look at the tool itself, um, would love to hear aspects of the tool that you like, and then maybe aspects of the tool that we're working together on improving.
So what I've liked that you guys have done over the years that I've been using it, especially is the questionnaire itself when for reassessments, that when the vendors go back in and refill out the questionnaire, we can now go in and see which questions they've updated very easily. Because I think in the beginning when I started using it, you didn't have that feature. So that's
Right.
just a great feature that I've enjoyed seeing.
So the ability where we identify the deltas, we don't make you go through the whole questionnaire, but we're actually focusing on the changes. Is that the area you're talking
Yes.
about? Yeah,
Yes.
awesome. Yeah.
And as I understand it, there's in the evolution of the corrective action plan process, back and forth process, right?
Hmm.
There's some improvements that are coming that'll make that easier to manage.
Yeah, let's talk about that because you've given our team feedback, and I'd love to, get your thoughts on, again, areas that you struggled with, and what you've seen from our product team in terms of our ability to help you with those longer term.
Kirsten, can you describe the pain points that we've had on that?
For the corrective action plan, yes.
Yeah.
So when when the vendors finished initially with the assessment, they think that they're complete, they think that they're finished, and they have this action plan where we have to go through and let them know things that they may need to fix, mitigate, or just like reject altogether. And we've just been having issues with them getting back to us.
Hmm.
Again, thinking that they're complete with the assessment and they're not. And that's the vendor mostly. But yeah, that's been a really big pain point for us, is getting them to complete that action plan.
And based on some of the designs you saw recently, do you believe we've solved that issue for you? Do you think moving forward, we're going to be able to solve that for you?
I think so. I'm very much looking forward to the new feature coming.
Yeah.
More
Yeah.
more granular, so if there's multiple pieces to it, they can respond individually. Obviously, Censinet can't solve for the fact that if some vendor just loses interest or
Mhm.
Mm.
doesn't answer the question, can't magically fix that with software, right?
Yeah. And did you change any of your process when you did the tool help you think through your overall process? And did you make any changes to the overall process? We know some customers, for example, initially they didn't really mandate the process to the third party vendors as part of their purchasing process. So for example, we find that if customers will tell the vendor to that they've got to go through the process, there's really no workaround. They can't short circuit it. But mandate that tends to drive enforcement. And if there's some type of purchasing activity attached to that, obviously the vendor's incented to get it done as well. Have you done that? Have you changed your process around? Um,
It's definitely mandatory. Yeah, I don't know if we've changed the process. It's been mandatory. I think one of the tricky
mm,
things is knowing when to start the process, right? Because you don't, if you start it too early, you're putting a bunch of work on both sides when something else might fall through, right?
yeah.
Negotiation, they basically wasted time.
Hmm.
And if you start it too late and everything is ready to go except this assessment, and then there's some legitimate back and forth with a corrective action plan, then you're slowing down the acquisition, right? So we sort of
Hmm.
want to get to that point where we're pretty sure that we want this vendor, right? But then you can start the process about the same time you're doing redlining with the
Mm.
terms and conditions and the usual process, the usual procurement process. But
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, we've always had it mandatory, and we have over the 5 years that we've been doing this, we've said no to a few vendors that did not have the correct answers.
Yeah, yeah. So within this supply chain process, if you've identified a risky vendor based on their responses, you basically decline to work with them.
Yeah, let's face
Wow.
it, there are, particularly with all the money that was flowing, all the venture capital money flowing, a few years ago when money was
Hmm.
free, right? You had people that thought they were going to transform healthcare and they built something and they really didn't understand all the responsibilities that went along with, running some SaaS that collected lots of PHI from. And
Yeah.
when it came down to brass tacks with some of these questionnaires, it became clear that they really weren't ready to do all the right things. And so, of course, we're not going to take that risk, and we pulled the plug.
That's great. And generally, do you feel, again, we don't want you to call anybody out, but do you feel that vendors are accepting of the process more so than they were 5 years ago? And do you feel overall that for the most part, vendors are trying to do the right thing, and this is helping them because you're identifying areas that they may not have even considered. So it is sort of a, stronger together. We're working together as a community to do the right thing. Do you feel like that's what's been happening over the last five
It's a
years?
good question. Kirsten, can you comment on that? In your 3 years, have you seen any trends with the vendors?
I was gonna say, when I first started, we had a couple vendors that were very pushing back against us. Like they gave us a decent amount of pushback, not
Hmm.
understanding why they needed to fill this out. But in the last 2 years, I haven't seen any of that. So
Oh, that's great. That's great. And do you also take advantage of the data and access area within the tool where you can capture information about post implementation, technical configuration, changes in scope?
So that was something that Carmen actually spoke with us about yesterday.
Oh, good.
That we're going to start doing. So
Awesome. Awesome. That's great.
Yeah, I
Um,
think in a perfect world, of course, we've got resources to routinely review every single vendor that
mm,
we've got to BA with. I don't think anybody really has resources for that, right? So
yeah.
some of that's aspirational, and what we really want to be doing is looking at some of the, who are we sending the most PHI to, and we haven't looked at in a while. Let's go back and review all that,
Yeah.
right? By the way, I thought of one example that we said no to. It was a sort of unique case where the vendor we were working with was leveraging some public cloud resources
Mm,
in a way that we decided was not appropriately secure for our PHI, but the provider of that commodity cloud service was not specific to healthcare. So they're not going to like retool this massive, billion-dollar thing they have just for this one use case. But that's sort of where it fell down. That's just one example that I can remember that we said no to.
yeah. Interesting. And then are you tiering vendors today? Are you using the tiering capabilities to drive the automation on the reassessment side too?
yes, we are. Mhm.
Great. And how does that work for you? Like you've got you obviously have tiers. How are you setting the tier in the reassessment time? Are you doing like critical 1 year and then lower tier you do maybe 2 years, or how are you
Years.
doing that?
That's actually exactly right.
Oh,
Yes.
you are. You're doing the 2 years? Oh, okay, good, good. So for lower tier vendors, you're not doing it as frequently because obviously they're a lower tier of risk, if you will. But for the critical ones, you're doing every year.
Mhm.
Um, and that gets kicked off immediately when you do your initial assessment. So that timing is starting for you.
Yes. Yeah, and that's
Awesome.
actually an excellent feature that you guys have, doing those yearly reassessments just automatically, so I don't have to go in and do it myself. It saves me some time.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I remember when we built that feature.
Mhm.
Um, okay, cool. So, um, anything else about the current product or process that you'd like to highlight? I know we've got some words on a page here around collaboration. Are you able to bring in other folks in the organization, or you just do it, within the cybersecurity side of the house?
That's fine.
Cybersecurity side of the
Yeah,
house.
yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
Great, great. All right, good. And then let's talk about benchmarking. We're
Yeah.
in a current wave, our fourth wave of benchmarking. So JD, you got involved in the past. Talk about from your experience, what this program has meant to you and how you apply it and how you use it
Yeah.
and some of the benefits.
So of course, within the healthcare industry, we need to be the quickly evolving regulatory landscape with Hiccup and with the CPGs. And we were just been chatting so here we are in the middle of November after the election. We
That's
have the
great.
election results. We don't really know what's happening from a regulatory perspective yet.
Right.
But what things that could very likely happen is reopen the HIPAA box and relook at that legislation, which can actually have some teeth to it, right?
Hmm.
And then and whatever comes out of whatever kind of schedule this is going to be on, or there's some expectation that the CPGs are going to move from voluntary to required at some point. Even if they don't, we really need to be looking at all this, right? And one thing that Censinet gives us that we really love that I don't think anybody else is doing is actual benchmarks. So just as we're looking at the screen right here, we can compare, we can do an evaluation, compare ourselves to peers, other peers that use Censinet. And we also have some control about, I think we can like define it by revenue, right?
Hmm.
For the peer group, which is really nice. Now this is not it's not random in that I would argue that the health systems that are on Censinet are probably the health systems that care about cybersecurity more than your average health system, right? So you've got a little bit of that built in. And the bottom line is when we look at this data for Dayton Children's, in some areas we're doing good compared to our peers, in some areas we're not doing very good compared to our peers. And so that really helps myself talking to our CISO and the rest of our cyber team and our network team. Hey, what are our next steps to get better at all this? And we also use this to present this to our board because what better thing to show your board for some actual outcomes um, is how we're doing on peers against the key performance indicators that the federal government is telling us we need to be doing in
Mm.
healthcare, right? So
Yeah.
that's why this is so important.
Yeah, and also the ability to sort of identify those gaps at an organizational level, with sort of the, if you will, the best in class where you are. You may be best in class, obviously, in some areas. You may have some gaps in other areas, and use that data as you work with your CEO, your leadership team, your board of directors to communicate, maybe your next annual program where you're going to make investments and why.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah, great. And okay, good. Well, was there anything else that you wanted to call out about Sensinet? I know again we've had quite a lengthy partnership, which we appreciate. I appreciate. You've been a great partner, a great customer. You've given us a lot of great feedback over the years. And generally, we want to continue to strive, obviously, to earn your business and trust, and move the needle on risk as much as possible. But as we think about the tool, how has our service team been to work with? How has the rest of our company organization been?
Yeah, the service team is great. I can comment on the like your product development team, and steadily, pushing forward on all of this, really going beyond third party risk management, right? So I'll say that for the product development team, and then Kirsten, maybe you can comment on the on our account reps and what the job they're doing.
Yeah, they've truly been amazing. I mean, they get back to you within 24 hours. They're there whenever you need them. They've really been extremely helpful. You guys are a great vendor to work with, honestly.
Oh, that's great. You were telling me earlier in the sort of the green room that they were also helping you along with some vendors that weren't responding right away, and you talk more about that as well.
Yeah, so whenever we have issues with vendors just not getting back to us, specifically with the action plan, actually,
Hmm.
Carmen, she'll reach out to them and she's just them getting an email not only from me, but from her as well, I think kind of makes them move along a little bit more. And she's just been great.
Excellent. Well, again, we obviously I love hearing that, and we certainly appreciate your business and your partnership. So, thanks very much. This is Ed Gaudet from Sensinet on the Champions webinar series.